Can hear you perfectly now. So, you know what? It's an honor to have you today. I believe we couldn't actually find out if we could. It was going to be DJ Agieh with DJ Card or is DJ Card with DJ Agieh. You understand? In terms of how we're going to set up this reasoning type of thing today. Right?
You know what? How about we just call it the reasoning
Yeah, yeah.
between two?
Let's reason it. Yeah, let's start it. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Do you want to go first or should I go first? What do you think about
I
that?
think I think you should go first.
Are you sure about that? There's a lot of.
Of
All
course.
right. Yeah. Let's do it. Um. I mean, on the reason why we are having this conversation today, I think I explained how it is important that we keep reggae music alive, and even had you uh playing on radio, and I just love the way that you do it. I saw myself, in reflection, exactly like the same DJ that I am, which is also you, my sister, and that's the basis of this conversation because I considered ourselves to be the last line of defense. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Wow, what a statement. Yeah, I mean, music is everywhere now.
Mm,
Hear it everywhere, and I suppose when it comes to reggae, you're gonna tune in to particular shows that suit you as a person or your needs that you want. I suppose it's just now trying to get a wider and vast audience that we require and need to keep the music going and continuing.
yes, yes, 100%, 100%. And I think what. Let me go straight to the questions, and then you have got a lot of questions to ask me as well. But the way I just broke them, yeah, massive. Like in your own words, and opinion, how has politics, economics, and society and technology has played a role in reggae and dancehall music genres in the last 30 years? Just considering on the last 30 years up to now, and now we're going to reflect and compare the last 30
Hmm.
years in the current situation of reggae and dancehall music genres.
Well, what a question. First of all, it's a
Mm,
very big question. But I suppose, as many would say, politics, it influences everything
mm,
that we do, we speak of, everything, even the struggles that we face is all down to, I suppose, politics and what is kind of, I suppose, given and
mm,
what is taken away so easily, which affects our economics, our society, and even to the technology that we are on, what we're kind of monitored to look at and
mm,
those sort of things. So it affects that role in reggae and dancehall because speaking with a lot of artists in particular, especially reggae artists, um,
mhm.
is a consensus that it feels like that their music or their what they're putting out doesn't necessarily get the views and the likes and so on. Often to do with the algorithms and what people can
Ye-
view and those sort of things. It's often
Yes.
if you're talking about society or you're
Mm,
talking about how the government treats people and things like that, they
mm.
either get banned or it's stopped or muted and those sort of things. So
Yes.
it's it has a massive impact on what we do as artists, as radio presenters, as everything to do with the industry.
I guess just to break it down, politics, we just have to call it the Babylon system. That what reggae music is always talking about. That's the Babylon system, which is a system that is affected, uh, you know, not only reggae music, but the whole aspect of our livelihoods in terms of how we do things. And I
Mm.
agree with you 100% on that. And you pretty much break down most of it on the politics because I was going to talk about also with regards to the algorithms that you just mentioned, because you mentioned the algorithms, because you see the politics now come in place whereby they're going to influence these algorithms as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, these sort of things don't surprise me I mean, I don't know why they surprise people because it's a system designed to belittle, I suppose, the poor man or the working man, as it said. So when we put
Mm,
something out there that would talk against this system that is designed to put you down, why
yes.
are we surprised that it's not going to necessarily put that at the top of the list? It's most likely going to put something out there that's more negative or more hatred. And
Mm,
that seems to get the top views, the top everything. And then obviously, if you speak about the system or you speak about what's happening in your society, in your whatever you're seeing, that's not necessarily going to reach those top views, or even things that are positive in your society. They seem to be at the bottom of the pile as well.
mm-hmm.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, 100%. And sorry, you have to forgive me. I'm going to fix my camera right now. I think it's kind of like stuck, but we'll fix it as we go on, and the show won't stop now.
no worries.
Yes, you see, on the politics itself, um, I've got another question, and I was wondering because when we mention the algorithms, there's
Mm,
that aspect when it comes to what is accepted and what is not accepted based on what the politicians want us to do, what they want the people to hear about. I'm
mm,
reflecting on some of the interviews that I've had with some artists,
yeah,
um, and when I posted those interviews on YouTube, I got a message, and they were informing me that these things do not go along with their community. You know, those words that they use these days. They say,
community
but when
standards. Mm,
yes, exactly. And but when you really listen to the whole conversation that I was having with the artist, it was a reasoning type of thing whereby we were reflecting on the truth of the things that are affecting us as human beings in society. But the system listened to the lyrics and the conversation and says this is not acceptable, and that got
mm,
me a lot. And with regards to reggae music, then I realized there's a lot in reggae music now, uh, as compared to other genres,
yeah.
that we are being treated unfairly. What do you think about that?
Well, algorithms. I mean, I think it's more they pick out words from what I understand. So if you've said a
Mm,
particular word, I don't know, if you've said government X amount of times, I think it then cancels you out because you've said that so many times, or I don't know, whatever the words are that they don't want you to
mm,
necessarily say. But again,
mm,
like I say, I'm not really surprised of it.
mhm,
I do think that we've been fighting this system for so long. It would be great if we had maybe our own platforms that were kind of created by reggae artists, reggae
mhm,
personalities, radio presenters, something that I suppose the people have created that's not necessarily owned by the government, owned by these big kind of capitalist vibes that we see. And I don't know if it would necessarily be better or if it would be a case of, you know, if you like that artist, you're going to see that artist really high up. And if you don't necessarily like one artist, they're going to be at the top of the
yeah.
pile. I don't know if that would happen necessarily, but
Mm,
I think these sort of things don't surprise me. I think if you enjoy music, if you enjoy what you're doing, as
mm,
Ableton often says, it's a mission, not a competition. So if you get
yeah,
one view, at least you've got one view, and
exactly, 100%.
yeah,
Sorry, I cut you when I say 100%. You can go ahead, my sister, and I'm loving the way you're putting it because one view for me is good because the reason why I say that with the last line of defense is simple, that the way we play reggae music is different from other DJs because we playing those artists that still have the same sentiments, the same ideas, the same things that what reggae music was when it was started from the beginning, when it was formed,
Mm,
basically. Because I'm going to go to the issue of economies, but we can just touch it right now.
yeah.
Where I was looking at the capitalist society that we now live in, and how it is also affected reggae music itself, in terms of how an artist, once they become commercialized, they
Mm,
tend to forget the message that they were putting across to the fans,
mm.
and then they now have to conform to what the capitalist society wants them to do. And in that regard, I realized that at the end of the day, are they still artists? What do you think? Are they still artists, or now they just basic musicians?
Well, I mean, we've always lived in a capitalist society. It's not necessarily anything
Mhm,
new, really.
mhm,
I understand what you mean. There is artists that have reached, I suppose, what we would call the top level. They're out there. Everybody knows who they are. But
mhm.
I think it's more about, also, many would argue it's about going with the times. So, as you're probably aware, the up and coming and, great artists in their own right as well, like the newer reggae artists, I suppose you'd call them. There's
Mhm.
been criticism of them because they have a message, but the rhythm isn't necessarily the same. It's more of a hip hoppy vibe to
Yes.
it as well.
Mhm.
So you could I suppose criticize that and say it's not in tune, but then
Mm.
I kind of torn with it because it's not necessarily the same as we started, but
Mm.
nothing ever is. We started off with mento, ska, rocksteady, and we
Yes.
keep moving with
Yes.
the times. And reggae was formed, and now I don't know. They call it neo reggae, which is like new reggae vibe. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's
Mm.
about progression. I think
Mm.
there is always level for progression, but I'm a
Mm.
message kind of person. I like the messages. Um, I like the rhythms that are behind
Mm.
it, but I'm more about the messages and what are the artists really saying to you. I'm not really too keen on the slackness that comes out of like particular
Yeah.
genres. I'm more about, okay, what is this artist saying to me? What can I take
All right.
from it? How, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, that kind of vibe. I understand you 100%, because I think when I did send some of the question, I also explained that it could be me who is so pessimistic, like we're being just pessimistic about reggae music, and my failures to conform to the changes of things, probably. Yep. But
But I don't know. I mean, there is a lot of, I suppose, that share your consensus in that as well. That
mm,
are we going in a wrong direction for reggae? Because the to be fair to you, my love is the rootsy dub vibe. Like,
yeah,
I love the culture aspect of it. I like the kind of rebellious, bassy kind of
mm,
tunes. But
exactly.
I can listen to, I don't know, what we call now the new artists of reggae. I can listen to them because some of their tunes do have positive messages. They do have, again, talking about the system, talking about this and that, and they are connecting with the younger generation. And I do think that is very important, especially when a lot of, I wouldn't say all, but especially here
Mm,
in the UK, a lot of the generation up and coming now probably wouldn't
mhm,
necessarily sit down and listen to a Gregory Isaac or a Burning
yeah.
Spear as it's played then. But if you
Mhm.
put, like, I don't know, say if you put Protege on or Chronics, they may
Yes,
listen to them because they have that kind of rhythm that they're
right.
enjoying, but the
Mhm.
message is still there, you know.
It's still, yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with 100% there. Um, Sorry. there's this aspect of revolution because, like what you said, you love the type of rebellious, because that's the type of thing that I also love myself, rebellious, but also revolution all the time. Because
Yeah.
reflecting back to what we discussed in the beginning of this conversation is the fact that there's the Babylon system here that needs to
Mm,
be fought, and it can only be fought through a revolution and a rebellion. So, do you think that based on even the new artists like Protege,
mm,
I know Protege does that.
yeah.
Does reggae music still inspire revolution now in rebellion against the system? Because I'm just always against the system myself.
I feel there is a rebellion, but
Mm,
probably not to the scale as it was, say, 70s, 80s,
mm,
um, when these great artists, probably even before that, to be honest with you,
yeah.
when these great artists were going through the struggles, were going through racism, were going through kind of finding out who they were and where they fit into this kind of system, as we call it, especially here in the UK, where we had a lot of, I suppose, migration from places like Jamaica and across
Yeah.
the Caribbean, and they
Yes.
had to find where do they fit in, and it, as you know, the UK was not what was kind of promised to them.
Yes,
And people like
exactly.
my grandfather, who was one of those people, had to
Mm-hmm.
find out who are we, where do we fit in as a black community, as a black person, and that's where sound system came in, and that was the education. So I
Mm-hmm.
think education now, you can just go on your phone and just find out about whatever you want to find out. Whereas then it was more like, okay, we're all coming into this room, a dance hall, as it was said, and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
learn. You hear all the struggles, you'd hear all this, all that, but people were coming together to communicate that struggle, and often was through rebellious reggae and through lovers rock and through these kind of genres that we speak of.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Just to add on that was well, because I remember Bob Marley actually was an inspiration in most of African countries when we gained independence, especially even for Zimbabwe, where I come from myself.
Yeah.
He actually did a song for Zimbabwe for the liberation of Zimbabwe and that type of music. That's what I was reflecting on, a revolution. But there is another revolution that we are fighting here. I want to come back to it now. Just concentrate on the algorithms and the fairness of the society towards reggae music, which I'm very
Mm,
much concerned about. Which I'm very much
yeah.
concerned about because the way that I see how these algorithms treat reggae music now on the aspect now, then we have to touch on the economics of things, how being an artist is actually benefiting reggae artists as compared to
Mm,
other artists in different genres. So
yeah.
for me, looking at the economic side, we just touch it.
Mm,
Um, I don't think that we are being treated fairly. That's rule number one. Based on the fact that what we have talked about regarding the Babylon system, with regards to what is accepted and what is not accepted, and reggae music is point blank. It's always talking about the truth.
mm,
It's always the truth, but the system that we live in now
mm,
doesn't want the society to know the truth.
mm. Yeah.
That gets me so much concerned.
Mm. Well,
I know you have suggested that should probably start our own platforms. That is a great idea because we was going to go to that point whereby I was going to ask you for solution. That is one solution. But anything else beside that on the solutions, besides creating own platforms as well.
I think we as a collective must continue to keep on playing the
Mm,
music. We have
yeah.
to buy the music as well. I think that's very important. Support the artists,
Mhm.
producers, etc., etc. But when you spoke about kind of reggae talking about the truth, well, the system don't want to hear the truth because when the truth comes out, when the truth
Mm,
is out, many
mm,
people know the truth of
yes.
how the system is corrupt and so forth. Um, but often enough, the truth, when it comes out and it's out there and the system knows that you're telling the truth, they don't want
Mm,
they just don't want the people to hear that and kind of keep on continuing that. As you know, it trickles down. Soon as, like, for example, Bob Marley,
mm,
when he
yeah.
speaks and when he spoke about the truth and he had his word and his message, and Dennis
Yes.
Brown and Isaac Burningby, and the list continues. When they spoke
Mm-hmm.
about their message, often enough, the system then would try and shut them down. And the same with
Exactly.
Rasta as well. They would shut them down, try and, cut off their locks and things like that. So when something is so strong and so powerful and they can see that the people are following and
Mm,
kind of taking to whatever's been given in kind of a spiritual connection and talking about, okay, rebellious music, as we say,
mm,
that's on their agenda. And of course it doesn't necessarily sell what they want you to kind of have in your mind. They want you to kind of be controlled, be like a robot, and keep going with whatever they put forward.
yes, 100%. Culture Heights, my brother, big up to yourself, straight out of St. Anne, Jamaica, massive type of thing.
Hey,
Culture Heights Culture Heights is one of the artists also. I would love you to interview that reggae artist straight out of Jamaica is massive
yeah,
type of thing. Culture Heights as well. Yeah. Thank you very
yeah,
much, Culture Heights. And we have pretty much touched almost everything on my list here, but should I continue to be pessimistic about it, or should I change my idea on optimism with regards to reggae music? And I would also want to ask you this question right now: is that do we have other DJs of a younger generation that are like me and you, the same caliber, whereby we respect the music as it is, or it is a society whereby we now have got a lot of DJs that are just full of, they just play reggae music, just fun, but not understanding exactly what what it is all about.
yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that there is many more
Mm,
DJs that respect the foundation
mm,
and where this great music has come from. I think that
mm,
often enough, because there is so, let's put it straight, right? Reggae has
yeah,
influenced the world 10 times over, even to
yes.
how people talk, how people dress. This little island, Jamaica, has
Yeah.
influenced everyone. let's just put it like that first of all.
Mm,
And this influence now has
mm,
become it is very popular in the sense of, what we listen to, but it's just not given, I suppose, the credit in necessarily is
yeah,
maybe a better
exactly.
word to be used, is not given that credit of so many great artists. And there is millions and thousands and thousands of great
Yeah,
artists, especially reggae artists, dancehall artists as well.
exactly.
And I'm hoping, like I said, that there is many DJs out there that respect the foundation. Myself personally, when I'm playing music, I always play music that I can relate to, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't play any raw lyrics or any kind of slack lyrics, and that's
Mm.
just my principles, I suppose. And like I
Yeah, I
said,
like
to
that.
continue the music and kind of support artists, support producers, buy the music. It's difficult to say buy because sometimes it is expensive and people are struggling. But if you can, like, even if you share music, we've got social media now that everybody is on. But it'd be great if
Mm-hmm.
people shared these great artists, even if they're just up and coming, or even if they're at the top of their caliber, and
Yes,
continue to be. The
yes.
more we share and the more we put out there, reggae, keep putting out there, I'm hoping that it will keep continuing, especially a foundation artist where it came from, and just show that homage, show that respect to where it came from.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great, great words. we have to continue doing that, sharing the music and the artists, because I know you have seen great artists, you have played great artists, you have been with great artists that are not in the mainstream media, but you know
Mm.
that you have been with talent just like me. That's why I had to come to you, my sister. Let's talk about this because it got me
Yeah.
going towards my 40 now, almost 40. I'm turning 39 this year. But looking at the world and seeing how it is being done, and we touched on the capitalist society and how the capitalist society has affected that. I thank you
Mm.
very much. But that's, I think, from my side, yes, the questions from my side from DJ Aggie, yes, that's all about it. We touched everything.
That's great to hear. Well, I'm
Yeah.
guess now it's my turn. It's
Yes.
my turn now.
Let me do
So,
the
oh gosh.
Love
So,
love to do that. Yeah.
of course,
Mm,
I have a great passion for Africa personally. As many
mhm,
people might know or not know, my granddad is from Jamaica. However,
mhm,
we do identify most of us as African. And the reason for that is
mm.
because we all come from Africa. Let's just put it all out there, yeah?
Yeah,
So,
let's.
what I wanted to ask you is
Mm,
how is reggae represented in Africa? And from hearing different artists, it seems to be very
mm.
difficult to book a tour or do a tour or do any kind of work out there, in particular Africa. And I wanted to know your kind of thoughts, and if it is difficult, how do we overcome that?
Oh, yes. That's a great question. Thank you very much. Personally, Africa is more reggae, and I believe reggae music is being represented pretty much, not so much fairly. If we're going to bring the aspects of how other artists from other continents actually participate in, with African artists, and the whole thing regarding a lot of things that are happening. We can talk about technology. A lot of people
Mm,
want to listen to the music, but they cannot access the music because now they have to internet services. In some parts it's still down and we're developing. But
yeah.
from my own perspective, based on how I've interacted with the reggae artists from Africa, wow, it's wonderful. I can talk about Monique Styles, she's Zambia. I can talk about you know there's Marvin 42, who is in Uganda, who has linked us up with a lot of artists that are in Africa. There is a lot of artists that I've interviewed straight out
Mm,
of Africa, and the love and the passion that they have, it's massive. And just to reflect on my country, Zimbabwe, where I come from, we do have our own. I would want to say our own, but it's the same because when you say Zim dancehall, all right,
mm,
it's a genre that is dancehall music, but we just call it Zim dancehall. But it's the same because the dancehall is the key word on it. So you find that
okay.
that genre is growing and is doing much great these days, and the artists have actually improved when from the time that they started and up
Mm,
to now. You can compare that there's a lot of improvement. There's a future with this genre, and a lot of reggae artists as well. And when Zim Dancehall started, it was more of dancehall bashment type of music. But now you realize now they started now creating the conscious reggae instrumentals, and now they're doing reggae music and stuff like that. It is improved because when it was started, it was just only dancehall music. So to continue calling it Zim Dancehall, so right now I don't think it's fair now. But basically, dancehall music is part of reggae music. It's the same genre.
okay.
Then,
Okay.
then you ask a question regarding to connect in terms of performing in Africa.
Mm,
Well, there are a lot of aspects, but I've got a list of promoters that I know that they reliable that they've done shows, because we can talk about Chris Martin, we can talk about Busy Signals performing in Glamis Arena in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And most artists have even kept on coming to Zimbabwe. Like most Jamaican artists have performed in Zimbabwe, and most of the Jamaican artists will say that if you haven't performed in Glamis Arena, you haven't performed, right? But that's just what they always say. But just the way they were looking at Glamis Arena, it was looking at Glamis Arena as compared to like maybe Red Square,
Mm.
those type of setup. But Zimbabwe do have that type of setup for artists to come and perform in Zimbabwe. But the
Mm.
issue now is about the promoters, because there are a lot of fake promoters out there, just like all over the world, and this affected a lot of artists.
Yeah.
But since we are discussing, and I've got that list of those promoters that I know that are verified, that are able to promote artists from all over, because I would want to see artists performing in Africa with no hiccups whatsoever. And
Yeah, 'cause I think
those things are
I was just gonna say I think it's more about, so rather than, usually what we see is, an
mm,
artist will come to a place in Africa and they'll
mm,
do one performance, but not necessarily move about.
mm,
So they won't necessarily go all across Africa. Like you might see in Europe or
yeah, yeah.
and there seems to be a lot of questions that come up like, why can't it be not necessarily easy, but why can't it happen freely? And I think that's more like, can
Mm.
that actually happen? Can artists, perform in Africa all across the board rather than just kind of in one place and then come back out again?
Well, I think it has to do with the promoters, but I've seen some artists doing that, performing in Harare, Bulawayo, Mutare,
Mm.
Kwekwe, Mashingo, that type of setting. It has to do with the promoter. And the promoter
Okay.
now is looking at such areas, because you see sometimes when you really look at Africa, it's kind of like maybe concentrated in one area, whereby if you're looking at South Africa, we're talking about Cape Town and Joburg, right?
Mm.
So you find that it is actually profitable for the promoter to put the artists in Cape Town and Joburg, and stick to that, and not take them maybe to Bloemfontein or any
Yeah.
other area, because they might make a loss there. That's the thing. So thank you very much for asking that, because that is very important. But a lot of factors come in place as well when you look at what happens. And the promoters, remember, we talk about the capitalist society, and the promoters, the capitalists all the time, they're going to maximize their profits as well.
Yeah.
So they tend to concentrate on the areas that they believe they're going to make a profit from. Can I say this shout out? So Matt Simmons, my brother, big captain. So Matt Simmons is straight out of the United States of America. He's a great friend of DJ Agieh, always supporting DJ Agieh all the time. 100%. Thank you very much, Matt Simmons. I like that.
Yeah. Maddie Simmons, big
Mm.
up yourself. Yeah, man, he always supports me as well. And Culture
Yeah,
Heights,
Matt.
him, so big up,
Yeah,
big up. As well.
nice, nice.
So, you ready for the next question then? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I do not know if I do not know if I answered you correctly on that one, but
Yeah, I think.
I think basically in general it's all about making profits
Okay.
uh, on the part of the promoters. That's why they tend not to move artists around. And
Okay.
that maybe they haven't experimented with that, but I would want them to experiment, because sometimes I think will be just assuming that they won't make a profit when they will actually
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mm,
It's kind of, I don't know. It's a little bit sad, really.
mm,
Um,
mm.
I don't know. That could just be me. So the next question is, what do you feel are the main messages of reggae?
Well, for me, it's just peace, love, and unity. Those three key words for me: peace, love,
Okay.
and unity. That's all. And I think that's all we need in this world. We can look at this world as it is right now. You see how the warmongering people are doing over there, whereby instead of seeking peace, they tend to supply weapons so that people continue to fight each other and kill each other, which is just ridiculous when you really look at the whole aspect of it. Of which I do not support any invasion of any sovereign country, but at the same time, I do not support people in the terraces, you know,
Mm.
cheering up, kill them, oh, kill them, oh, beat him up. Just that type of thing that is happening in this world.
Yeah.
So basically, with reggae music, that's why I love it so much, because it's all about peace, love, and unity. That's
Mm.
the key messages that I'm always stuck with, and that's why when it changes, it
Mhm.
becomes a problem with me.
Yeah. So that kind of
Yeah.
follows up really. I was going to ask about changes and what do you
Mm.
see are the changes? What would you class are the changes and how has it affected you as a listener?
Or as a listener myself, all right, the changes basically is about, this type of music that doesn't add value to listeners. Some type of lyrical content that is absolutely just about nothing.
Mm.
I'm not gonna mention it right here on live session, but that type of lyrical content that has got no value addition to the society. That's
Mm.
the main change that I saw, and the infiltration of R&B and hip hop in our genre, right? This
Yeah.
is just for me. I'm not happy with it because the rhythms that are coming, like just concentrating on the dancehall music anyway, the rhythms that are coming out right now, it's just I mean, it's just hip hop. Just because the artist is Jamaican, it doesn't make it dancehall music. That's my concern all the time.
Yeah.
The way they're doing the rhythms, the way rhythms were done. Not saying that technology has changed and conformed to this, but there's a certain way of hip hop and R&B that has taken
Mm.
over the whole of the genre of dancehall. It's like erasing dancehall completely. That's my problem. I hardly
Okay.
find dance or bashment type of reggae music these days from the
Okay.
rhythms that are coming out. Well, all I'm listening to is R&B and hip hop
Mm.
being sang
Okay.
by being sang by Jamaican artists. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
Mm,
I hear you. I mean, it. I agree. There is a lot of hip hop influences, R and
mm,
B, but it's one of those things. Like I said earlier, in regards to many will see that as a progression. Many will
mm,
see, some people will see, because there's always been a kind of connection with reggae and hip hop just because of the struggles. Might not always
mm,
be the same struggles, but the same struggles that are spoken of within genres, kind of thing. So I don't know
yeah,
if that plays a part in it, in the fact that they are similar struggles or sometimes the same struggles in different kind of aspects of life. But like I said, I'm a rootsy
mm.
person. So me personally, I like the more, I suppose people nowadays would call it kind of foundational roots. I like the kind of that kind of
Yeah,
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 I like that kind
yeah,
of
that's
energy.
that's yeah, that's amazing. Go ahead. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I would say. I mean, again, like I said to you, the kind of what we kind of call neo reggae, as people have
Mm,
quoted it into a genre. I suppose
mm,
the like if people don't know, that's probably the likes of Protege, Chronix, Gabaka
yeah,
Pyramid, and the list
and
continues. I mean, within lyrical content, their lyrical
yeah.
content, I can't say every song that I
Mm,
love, but there's certain songs that I do like, and I think, yeah, I can relate to what they're saying to me. I might not necessarily like the beat all the time, but the
Hmm.
message still,
Yeah.
I would say, still revolutionary, or still putting out a message of going against the system in some aspect. And I think
Yes.
that's why, when Chronix brought out the tune "Here Comes Trouble," for example, it went
Yeah.
crazy. It went
Mm.
crazy in the dance and things like that. So there is still that aspect, but
Yes.
I can't say that I would necessarily draw for a hip hoppy reggae
Mm.
tune. I personally, like I
Mm.
said, go for the rootsy dub vibe. So yeah,
100%.
that's me.
100%. I agree with you. Yeah, maybe I'm pessimistic, but also optimistic. I think having this discussion with you, it has actually opened also my mind to look into those also aspects with regards to what other people might want to listen to based on the generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'll keep the originality, the foundation of reggae music as it is, because it's very important to me.
There's nothing
Mm,
like it. A bit
mm,
like myself putting on a vinyl, for example, and really
mm,
hearing the messages you can put on any of the foundation artists, and they still relate to
exactly.
this day. And there's a lot of them have passed away, sadly, but
Exactly.
it still relates now. You can put on a Dennis Brown tune, for example, and it will still
Mm,
relate to what's happening now. And I think if we have more
mm.
music that's everlasting, then how
Um,
we can't you can never forget it. You can never throw it away.
yeah, yeah, yes, yes, you can. And Matt said, yes, the foundation strengthened the nation. Massive. Thank you very much. And also,
Yeah.
Culture Heights said, I agree with you too, DJ Kat.
Yay, more
Great.
love. More love.
More love, more love, more love. It's a reasoning type of thing. We just the same here. Just DJ Agieh is not particular with hip hop and R&B in dance or in reggae music.
You know what
Mm,
though? On seeing that there
mm,
has other projects. I mean, the project that Damian Marley did, for example, Distant Relatives with
mm.
Nas. That
Yes,
project was a fantastic project. It's an
yes,
album. If you listen to it, I mean, it has got
yes.
influences of reggae dancehall because Damien, he
Mm,
would probably class himself as a dancehall kind of artist. And
yeah.
then you've got Nas, and he's more hip hoppy. But when you've put them together, it is a great.
Mm,
I think it is a great piece of work, great artwork, great everything that's come out of it, and the messages are still there. So
mhm.
that is probably, if people were to ask me, Kat, what would you kind of recommend if you wanted to hear like reggae and hip hop? I would probably divert them to that one.
Yes, massive. I listened to it. That was amazing. And like I said, what I'm getting is some of the lyrical content that has come out in reggae music being influenced by R&B and hip hop. But I didn't see that happening with Dem and Mile and Nas. That was massive. That was more of reggae, and it was massive. I did enjoy that music. And also, allow me to add, I remember you asked the question about Africa because one of the things that Denry Morgan wanted to do with us Africans before he
Mm,
passed on, may his soul rest in peace, uh, he had come up with a group of African artists, including the likes of Monique Styles and also Vaga Vibes from Ethiopia, and
yeah,
also Massa Music in South Africa, reggae artists, and also I think she's Tendai from Zimbabwe, and through Marvin Fortitude in Uganda. They come up with this. He When I had a discussion with him February last year, that was his last radio interview on radio. Unfortunately, it was with me February last year before he passed on. Then he said that he wanted to create the a band more like the way he created the Morgan Heritage Band from
mm,
his family, but
yeah,
he wanted to create now an African band from African artists, reggae and dancehall artists. That's what he was going to do there. So we hope
Okay.
that project is still there. It's going to go on and with people that have been appointed to take over his vision. I'm very
Mm,
optimistic about it. I know it's going to happen. And if it is not going to happen with those people, we are going to do it
for real.
with the likes of Marvin
Mm,
Fortitude and me, Agieh at the same time, because I also became part of that group as well. So it's going to happen.
yeah, of course. I think that, I mean, it may have happened already and we just don't know about
Yeah,
it. We just,
hundred
you know.
percent, 100%, 100%. Yes, yeah, 100%.
So I've got a, it's quite difficult, this next one, which is what are
Mm.
your free tunes that you are listening to and why?
Wow. The one that I the one that I use from Queen Africa, calling all the children of Africa, I love that
Yeah.
one. And
Okay.
also I love Matt Simon's song called "Got to Pull Myself Together." I just love that one. It's just massive. And there's also this one. There are many anyway. I like the culture one, Addis Ababa. That song
Okay.
is something else. And on culture heights, culture heights has got a lot of songs that I would want you, you know, just listen to them. I'll
Mm,
send them to you. And I don't want to mention those songs our culture because I don't want him to feel like I'm not discriminated. But he's got great reggae music songs that blows my mind.
mm,
Yeah,
I hear
but
that. And
yeah, then there are some um dancehall that I love
okay.
so much. I'll give you one for example. The Batman place that was Movado in Busy Signal. I love that one. And yeah, that type of thing. So thank you very much for that question.
No problem. So, I mean, you said you free tunes, but why those free tunes?
Oh, um, I guess most of them they remind me of like the aspects of life sometimes, and also some of them they actually activate some memories. So some
Okay.
of the music I've played it when I was going through some things or something exciting or something very bad, and that's how I associate music with most of the times. That's why it is so emotional for me because most of the songs, even if I'm not listening to them right now, but if I listen to a song, my memory kind of like triggers into um you know an area whereby it reminds me of certain things that were happening at that time when I first heard the song.
Okay. I hear you.
So it helps me to remember a lot of things when it comes to music, and these things they stick with me, whether good or bad. But I will always want to continue remembering. So the
Mm,
ones that I mentioned, yeah, they kind of like trigger a lot of stuff that is beyond other songs would do.
okay, I hear that definitely.
Mm, mm,
So then it takes me to my next question is because obviously you have a passion for music, passion for the
mm,
industry, I guess. And do you feel like the industry has changed? And I guess simple words better or for worse?
mm. I think yeah, the music industry has changed. That is for me it's a fact. Now,
Mm,
for better for worse, now I think it's best if we can separate. It's like for which generation. I think maybe now we have to look at different generations. But for me, My generation say, oh, it has gone for West. No doubt
Okay.
about it. It has gone for West because the industry is no longer looking at talent. The industry is just putting across artists out there who are just good for the money. If they
Mm,
can, the artists that can be told what to do by these capitalist people, what to sing about, and that's it. And most of it, the reason why I'm saying that the music has changed is the simple fact that sometimes we might believe this is a great song, but we forget the fact that we have been told over and over again through their algorithms and creating a narrative about a song that says this is one of the best songs. They should listen to this song, should listen to this song, and how they promote it as the capitalist society does it.
mm,
At the end of the day, people kind of like trend it, but they have never actually really uh, asked themselves how they actually think about the song
mm,
in all earnest and honest about it. But you see, the society pushes these things just because the society has created an artist and this capitalist society that we're talking about. They're going to, even if the artist just produces this ridiculous type of music or below par, we're going to
mm.
go with it. So that's the main change that I've seen in this music industry.
Okay.
And what
And
the second question that was
yeah,
to the change, there was a second follow-up question to that.
yeah. I was asking if it was for better or for worse, in your opinion.
Well, it's for worse. For me, my own opinion is for worse.
Mm,
Um, I would love to keep the reggae music genre alive as it is, and
mm,
having the influence of the capitalist society and these whole algorithms influencing what we should be listening to and what we should listen to is a problem because I
mm,
don't believe that it is up to this society to decide whether this lyrical content is good for me or is not good for me. I believe it is up to me to decide whether it is good for me or not the
yeah.
capitalist society, because now they're telling me that I should not hear the lyrical content which is talking about revolution, rebellious against the system, which is the system that this capitalist society is creating. So that since they've got the power, they're going to destroy us.
Mm. Again,
Mm.
it probably takes, people like yourself to think outside the box, think outside, okay, they're telling me no, not to listen to this. What's the reason
Mm.
for it? Sometimes we have to be our own critical thinkers and
Mm-hmm.
not just follow fashion, as they would say.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and when you say, cancelling and things like that, I mean, there's always a means to find whatever they've cancelled, or even go to the artists. What I've found, in particular reggae as a whole, many artists in that genre will gladly have an interview with you, gladly speak with
Mm-hmm.
you, message them, email them, whatever it may
Mm-hmm.
be. And I think that's important. Actually contact the artist or contact whoever you're trying to find out about, rather than hearing it from
Yeah,
secondhand or
exactly.
a little video that's been created.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, to make sure that it's kind of networking with that artist. I think networking is probably going to be the key to this, and communicating to many artists, many producers, even the people, just saying, let's be more critical and actually think outside the box, not just
Yes.
follow whatever's put in front
Yes.
of you. I think that's probably more important across the
Yeah.
world, not just in one place, but everywhere.
Exactly. 100%. And just to add on that, I believe if society was let, if they had not controlled the mindset, the narrative, and the perception of a human mind, we would have figured it out eventually. But now the society is now used to listening to these things that they always talk about, like this is what you need to know. I think you can see that in the mainstream media. This is
Mm,
what you need to know. So society has come to that point whereby they don't research anymore. They're going to rely on these guys to tell them what is happening. And whatever these guys are going to tell them what is happening, it is correct. So society has let itself to be manipulated now, because
mm,
these guys now know that whatever they say, society is going to take it as factual.
But to be honest,
So,
I don't know if
mm,
that's a now thing. I feel
mm,
like that's been happening forever. We've been manipulated by all types of different media outlets and so forth. Again, it's
mhm,
about thinking outside the box. I
yes.
want to big up Culture Heights. He's put down he thinks it's for worse, but it's
Mm,
not too late to change. And he
mhm,
thinks we can get back to where it was. And he sees where some of the younger artists is realizing that, such as
mm,
Jackstar, Joshi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
yep.
Yeah, big up this Culture Heights. So yeah, I think it's just about as an individual actually thinking, okay, what are they saying to me, rather just than just taking it in. Think for yourself, and I think it's I don't know if it's difficult, but the attention span for especially a lot of young people is quite
Mm,
limited. Seems nowadays like they'll see something for 10 seconds, get bored, and move on. And I think that also can create a problem because if you're seeing something and it's quick,
mm,
it's put out there,
yeah.
and then
Mhm.
you move on, you're not really taking that information in, and you
Yeah.
don't really
Yeah. Exactly.
criticize it, and all that sort of stuff. So the news is giving you snippets of stuff. They're
Hmm.
processing it, and they think, okay, cool, that's my job done.
Yeah. So much
It's
job done. Let's do this. Like when you say, I said, if you ask if it is difficult. Well,
mm,
for me and you, it is not anymore because we have exposed ourselves to reggae music. Because reggae music has actually consciously reminded us of these things. So the idea is to keep on trying to force it on people. I'm not going to force reggae music on people, but if they get it, they get it. They will start to understand to
mm,
process the information that they're getting from the mainstream itself. So for me, and I feel, yeah, it's not difficult to check these things before you take them for a fact, because most people just look at the face value of things, then they say that is it. This is what is going on because CNN said that, because BBC said that, or whatever under the news, even Fox, you know, that aspect. So reggae music opens that door. And if you're going to reflect back, that's why the algorithms are always against us, because they don't want us to hear about these things that reggae
mm,
music is talking about. And that's why I said that we are being treated unfairly, which is not
mm.
good. But history will judge us, and I'm happy I'm on the right side of history.
Yeah, well, for real. I also think as well, it's probably about communicating. Um,
Mm,
communication between the different generations is probably key because what we don't realize is that the elders are like
mm,
history books. They're like
exactly.
history books. They've lived and done probably what you're doing or trying to do.
Mm,
So I
mm,
feel like should I mean we went to myself. I went to a reasoning session about sound system and music last
mm,
year.
mm,
If I'm honest, it was quite emotional to see
mm,
we had what you call youngsters, I suppose, the youth
mm,
of today, and then the elders within sound
mm,
system, within music, and it was so. I took a lot from that day just listening
mm,
to
mm,
generations before me, and I think
mm.
if we just stopped a second and said, okay, what can the younger generation bring forward for the music industry? what can the
mm,
elders bring, and not necessarily just shove them away, because I wouldn't see the benefit in
mm.
that person.
Yeah.
If we communicate more and come together
Mm,
more, because the reggae network as itself is probably more easier to connect because of social media and so on. You'd think so
mm.
anyway. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
you'd hope so,
Yeah.
across the
Yeah.
world across
Mm,
the world. So why not use that advantage to communicate more people from places such as where you are, Africa, Jamaica, England,
yes.
so on and so on, so that more people can come together, have these reasoning sessions, and decide, okay, this is what's
Mm,
working, this is what's not working.
yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
move forward? We progress. I mean, if we
Yeah.
don't communicate with these different boards and different people, different artists, and so on, then there's never
Mm.
really going to be any progression, surely. It's just going to
Yes.
keep continuing.
100%. Communication is very important. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for that. I'll add on that one, especially when you look at the younger generation and the older generation. I like the way that you say that our older generation is a history book that needs to be read
Yeah.
properly. And the
Mm.
problem that I've seen with the younger generation is their approach towards um, the older generation. Sometimes,
Mm.
um, on the side of reggae music, I believe that is well taken care of. I think the generation understands that, especially if they go through the same process that you went through. But look at the politics right now these days. The younger generation tends to insult the older generation, say that you should get out, you do not think you're old. That type of mentality that the younger generation has towards the older generation, whereby they accuse the older generation of not being able to perform just because they are old. It's a
Mm.
totally wrong narrative that they have gone through, that they have embraced. And imagine how you will take it when you get to that age, and somebody is telling you that, and when you had almost 40 years to learn these things, and you're trying to teach this guy that I've learned these things for the past 40 years, and I'm trying to teach you through my history how to do these things, and he's telling me that I don't think, when he hasn't even learned anything at all. So the generation that we have these days, their attitude towards our older generation, it's not good communication. Rather, they're not
I
communicating perfectly, and they trigger this older generation into a safe mode, and it's going to
mm,
be problems. Mm,
think it's also about respect as well. So
mm,
I do think that, yes, the younger generation should, definitely respect our elders. I mean, 100%. And I also think as well there is room for, I suppose, the elder generation to listen to the youth, because
mm,
in order for the youth to progress, we have to
mm,
listen to the elders. But as
yeah,
they say, you never stop learning, right? So
yeah,
as the elders continue to get older, it's
mm,
great to hear, that unity is coming together. I love when, for example, you have an elder artist, and they're, for example, he's not necessarily an elder as such, but you've got people like Damian Marley, just top of my head, and he's supporting the Barker Pyramid, and he's supporting,
mm,
different generations like Black Amai and so on. And it's really
mhm,
nice, personally, when I see that kind of unity. I think it's fantastic when you have
mhm,
that, when you have different artists coming together and kind of
mhm,
sharing experiences, sharing, even sharing kind of what they've gone through, rhythms, lyrical
yes,
content. Is
mm,
that going to work? That sort of thing. I think there
yes,
needs to be more of it, and in order to do that, in order for the youth to learn, then we need the elders, and in order
mhm,
for, I suppose, the elders to kind of give a thumbs up, as it said,
exactly,
then we need
exactly.
we need some sort of room to have the youth have their say as well. I think it's important to have that both sides of communication, personally.
Yes, 100%. Communication is always best. But I think you would understand and also agree with me that the communication it has to start with the youth towards the older generation. I was touching on the attitude that the younger generation may start to towards the older generation because of the narratives.
Hmm.
So my advice is for the youth is just erase that narrative that is, yeah, a younger generation. You tend to think more than better, or you're more effective or efficient as compared to the older generation. And if you approach the older generation by that, they're going to activate a safe mode and respond in kind, and that breaks down the communication itself, because the older generation also need to listen to the youth at the same time.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it works kind of both ways.
Mm.
Like Culture Hype said, popcorn and Beres Hammond. I mean,
Yes.
what a combination! First of all,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
two fantastic artists. I mean, Beres, you can't really fault him as an artist
Mm.
at all. And
Yes.
popcorn, fantastic artist again. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes he's a little bit rugged around the edges, as it said, but when
Yeah.
they've come together, and I'll be honest, when they did come together and they've collaborated, it's
Mm.
been fantastic. And
Yeah. That's
I
fantastic. Yeah.
love it. I love to see the unity amongst, especially when it's the elders and the youngsters, or even just a group or whatever it may be. I just love to see that. I mean, we talk about love, peace, and unity. We need to,
Yes.
I think, need to do more and more and more of it. Personally,
Yes.
across the board.
Yes. 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, definitely. So my last question, I guess,
Mhm.
is: do you feel the vibe of reggae has changed? Okay, so the actual
Mm.
vibe of it and what it brings, and has the reputation of reggae changed?
Well, yeah, sticking with my original position, the vibe on
Mm,
the vibe side, I think the vibe still remains, because
okay.
I cannot take away the fact that the reggae vibe is still there. It's there. It's there. 100%. It's there.
Mm,
But the
okay.
influence itself, it's kind of like where we are going. I think at the end of the day, I think we might start to see that vibe actually changing completely, 100% ultimate. Even those
Mm,
rhythms that I was talking about, I says it's reggae, it's R&B and hip hop. It's not
yeah,
entirely that. The
okay.
vibe is there for dance of music as well. The vibe is there. The reggae music vibe is there. So the vibe is still there,
Mm,
because it doesn't change much. Yeah.
yeah. And then the last little bit of that was the reputation of reggae. Do you think that has changed?
Yeah. The repetition of reggae, I think it has remained constant.
Okay.
For me, I believe it has remained constant, because the society still has those other different ideas about reggae music. I'm going to reflect in terms of some of African society,
Mm,
whereby they still look at reggae music as a demonic entity, and I do not know where they get this. But I'm just saying that even if you look at the religion itself, they
mm,
talk about they talk about the Rastafarian, is another thing. That's the African community being influenced by religion. So
mm,
as long as this religion hasn't changed with regards to how it sees reggae
mm,
music uh, influence has remained constant for me.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, it has remained, but being optimistic, I believe is going to rise, and
Mm,
with what we're doing, and I believe that what we have created is a society whereby we're giving the listeners a different version of artists, not being pushed to them by the mainstream. We're giving them quality, we're giving them talent, we're giving them peace, love, and unity, we're giving them message, we're giving them everything in one bundle.
mm,
And as society goes on and changes, you realize that people will start to conform to that. I might not be alive to see that, but like I said, I'm happy to be on the right side of history. And this discussion, as we are putting it across right there, it,
Mm.
it, it will be there forever. And
Yeah.
history will judge DJ Cat and DJ Agieh, what DJ Agieh and DJ Cat were talking about. And
Mm.
the future generation will say those guys were actually 100% correct. And why is it nobody listened to them when we're talking about? So the message that we have is not for this generation. Basically, the way I look at it, it's not for this generation, not this society. It's only for a few people who are in this generation who understand this type of
Mm.
message. But
Yeah.
as, as society grows 300, 400 years from now, another
Mm.
generation will pick it up and say, this was a generation of the people who were from the future. That's how
Mm.
I look at it. Mm,
I hear you. So we've got Portrait Heights, Speak Up Yourself again. He's put for
mm,
the listening to for me listening to Chronix, Protege, Coffee, Lila Ike, the vibes is
mm.
there, these artists, but still um we need the love and support for each other instead of competing with each other.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree with him 100% because normally reggae music was founded on the basis that it's not a competition at all. Not a
yeah.
competition. Yeah, music is not a competition. Even us DJs, when we play, we always emphasize it is not a competition.
Mm,
Never competing with anyone. And it is
definitely.
important for the artists. It is important for the artists that we protect artists that way. That is, as DJs, we don't compete. Is
Mm,
if we unite as DJs, like what we have done, my sister, you see that we tend to present the artists much better than when we are in a competition. And I do not see a reason for having that competition in the first place, and for what reasons. I've got no idea why people would be in that type of competition.
well, competition is probably kind of, as Bob said, a rat race. Everybody wants to be at the top. Everybody wants to be in the limelight.
Mm,
Or they want that recognition. And I think
mm,
sometimes it's kind of important to remember that you're not
mm,
necessarily be at the top or whatever you want to refer to it as. You have to
mm.
put that message out there. And again, it goes back to the messages and kind of your principles and what you feel is correct and right to put out there for the people
Exactly.
to listen to. So it's more about
Exactly.
you as an individual as well. What's important to you with what you're doing? Is it the music? Is it the fame? Is it the ego? All these different things come
Exactly.
into it.
100%. I agree with you 100%. The fame, the ego, and stuff is another thing. For me, it's a complete different story altogether. I do not seek those things. I'm seeking the pushing the message and keeping reggae music alive.
Mm,
That is what I believe is my purpose. And money, if it's money, we have to look for money somewhere else. But competition, like that word in the Bible. Let me just refer it to it. So, it says, "Seek ye the kingdom of God first, and all these things shall be added unto you." But I just want to say it in reverse. Like, if you seek the gloriness of what you're doing, if you do something that you love so much with a passion, all these
mm,
things shall be added unto you, even in music.
yeah.
So I don't believe it has to do with why are you doing the music in the first place. If you're doing it
Mm,
for money, then it's gonna be a problem. Then you're gonna put up a lot of competition and starting trouble. But if you're
yeah.
going to be doing reggae music for the passion of it and the love of it, you find that all these things like money and everything and fame shall be added in, after that. That's how I'm just looking at it.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, for me personally, it's probably more about a legacy as well.
Yes.
Um, I always think in for the future, what would I like to leave behind, and that's why I do things like interviews and um,
Mm.
top five and things like that, because I think it's important to highlight the music that is out there. It's important to
Yeah.
highlight people's journeys, people's stories.
Mm,
Everybody has journey and where they're coming from, and that is really important to kind of, if you are an up and coming artist, for example, you could go to Culture Heights' interview, hear what he
yes.
had to go through, and say, okay, this
Mm,
is what I'm learning from this. This is what I'm
yes.
learning from this artist and that artist. And I think it's
Mm,
important to kind of hear people's journeys and their
mm.
stories. That's why I love hearing people what they've had to go through, what they're still going through, and what we're gonna continue to go through. Yeah.
100%. 100%. Thank you. I'm happy you agree on the legacy because it's going to stay here on Facebook forever. That's the legacy as
Mm,
well. And I also had a
yeah.
wonderful conversation with Culture Heights as well, and I learned a lot from him. And I've done
Mm,
so a lot of interviews with a lot of artists from all over the world as well. Uh, those interviews are all over the platform. They're going to
mm,
stay forever. Mm,
yeah. I
yeah.
think there's been quite a few memorable artists that I've spoken
Mm,
to
mm,
personally. But like I said, each one, when I spoke to, for example, Steel Pulse, David
mhm,
Hines, however people pronounce it. Um,
mhm,
one thing that really stuck to me was his his dedication. There's a level of dedication and a level
mhm,
of kind of just determination to get that message out there. And the
mm,
same with the likes of Maxi Priest and all these great artists that are bringing these tunes to people. There's this
mhm,
dedication and okay, this is what I want to put forward, and this is what I
mm.
I want to do, and kind of the message again as we come back to it of
Yeah.
of reggae of the people's music.
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
that's what it should be all
100%.
about. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Mm.
All right. That was a wonderful discussion, my sister. Anything else you want to ask DJ Agi? One thing that I wanted to ask you is, I think I did ask you already,
Mm.
but going forward, how do you think we should promote these artists as well, and also bring other artists as well into this whole fold, and the listeners as well into the whole fold? What do you suggest we should do?
Wow. First of all, play the music. play it
Yeah.
play it as much as you can. Radio, social
Yep.
media, wherever possible. Play
Mm,
artists. I
mm,
also think as well we need to play up and coming artists as well as the established artists, so that everyone gets a fair,
mm,
suppose a
mm,
fair play. Um,
mm-hmm.
like I said, communicate with each other. I think it's important. So
Exactly.
I mean, the worst an artist can do is say no to you. So drop them,
Mm,
say DMs as we can now, or even an email if you want to be more kind of professional
mm,
or whatever it be. I think it's just that kind of reaching out, that networking aspect is very
yeah.
important. It would be great if we had our own platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's difficult because if we had our own platforms, there would be questions of who would man the platform, who would
All
kind
right.
of oversee
Yeah.
it.
100.
And I mean, there's probably thousands of people that would want to do that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
things like that really that I would suggest. And like I said, support as much as possible. If you can't
Yes.
necessarily buy the music for the artist, share it. Even if you pass it on to another DJ as well, I think that's important.
Exactly.
So
That's important. Yeah.
I what I do is if I have like an influx of tunes, for example, and I know that
Mm,
I can only play, I don't know, say play 15 of those tunes for the week, I will try my
mm-hmm.
hardest to pass it on to another DJ so that they can play, say, the next 15 tunes that I've got, so that
All right.
everyone
Yeah.
gets their airplay. And I just think just sharing the music, making sure that everyone gets that um, level playing field. Really, it's really
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. That's important. And just to add on the platforms, what we've done, what we're doing now on AfroZim is what we have decided is we're going to create pages for each and every artist that we have interacted with, and most of the pages are ready, but we haven't activated them. So what we
Mm.
have done is we're putting the YouTube link. We just embedding their YouTube, we embed their Spotify, their Mixcloud on one page, so that a
Okay.
listener, if they visit Afrozim, if they go to that artist, they will be able to see everything about that artist, including their content there.
Mm.
Because on platforms, now that we have spoken about it, that we have to create our platform, then I was thinking that of course we have started this, but this we could also use it as an idea to create our own platforms, whereby we're not going to fight with these platforms on a head-on, right?
Mm.
But we're going to develop our own platform as we go, but we use these platforms because at the end of the day, these platforms are massive. They attract a lot of listeners, but we just want
Mm.
to put everything for the list for the artist at one page. So if it is Culture Heights, for example, it will be afrozim.com/culture heights,
Mm.
and a listener can actually get all the music about Culture Heights on Afrozim. That's what we're
Okay.
going to do. So we haven't activated the pages yet
Yep.
because there's a lot of artists. So if we activate the pages, we don't want to cause some conflict in terms of some artists we might have forgotten or
Okay.
maybe skipped by mistake. Then create
Mm.
an environment whereby we might be regarded to have been playing favoritism. That
Mm.
type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea. And yeah, I suppose, even to like the sound systems,
Mm,
if it's a particular tune, for example, or if there's something that I personally enjoy or like, and
mm,
you I might like the vinyl or the CD. If people out there, I will always kind of recommend stuff to people as well. Say, oh, check out that tune or take a listen to
mm,
this, just to kind of get some excitement about it because there's so much music out there, and
yes.
sometimes as a DJ you can get overwhelmed with so much coming in and you've seen so many
Yeah.
tunes.
Mm,
So I, I would recommend, having a recommendation list for people, just putting that bit of
mm,
effort in so that you can pass that information on to a next DJ, the next sound system, or festivals as well. Recommend people. Don't just keep it to yourself. If you're at a festival, say, "Oh, you know what? I actually like
mm,
this artist. You check them out. Go and see what they're
mhm.
like next time." There's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mm,
I'm
yeah,
happy you're doing that. I'm happy you're doing that, my sister. I would continue to do that. That was a wonderful discussion. The time is exactly 2:30 a.m. Central African time in South Africa. Like that.
nice.
So that was wonderful. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do, when I'm going to play it on Zoom, I'll also send you the link right now. But on Facebook, it's now live,
Yeah,
and I hope
that's
to see you on radio. And I'm going to get a list of artists from you that I should interview as well. And I'm going to give you also my list of some art I need you to interview as well. Wherever you are,
definitely.
my sister. Thank you very much for your support.
Anytime, you're always welcome. And bless up to everybody who locked in. It's really appreciated.
I liked it. I liked it. Thank you very much. I really do
Any-
appreciate it. It was an honor, actually. It was an honor. This is one of the first conversation, one of its kind. I've never done a conversation like this before. Well, it's always been Agieh and the artist, not Agieh and another DJ. That was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
God bless.
anytime. You're always
Nice.
welcome. More love, yeah? Bless up.
Nice. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. That was wonderful. Big up to yourself.